Hey everyone, Steve Van Wormer from phaware Global Association. I'm here with Dr. Hap Farber and Dr. Patty George from Team Phenomenal Hope, and we wanted to have a conversation here about an event that they held recently called Phenomenal Hope 2023, which was a medical conference focused on knowledge, research, and advocacy in pulmonary hypertension that was held in Boston. And I thought they could share some of the kind of takeaways and learnings they had from this medical conference. So thank you both doctors for joining.
Thanks for
Yep.
having us.
Thanks
sure.
for having us. Yeah.
So this was a great event. And there was a lot of turnout. So, but tell us a little bit about just people that might not know what that event was focused on and some of the topics and kind of what were your takeaways.
Go ahead, Patty. I'll let you go first.
Well, it was our first medical symposium. As you know, like Team Phenomenal Hope started in 2012. And so over 10 years ago. And never did I ever imagine that we would have a medical symposium. And I'm so proud of what we achieved, and specifically with HAP taking leadership and having this long-term vision. He can tell you about it, but this didn't just come up on a whim. He's had this vision of having this conference for a while, and he and a team of people really pushed this. And it was special because the point of this conference was to talk about really important topics that we all know are important in the field, but they don't always get the attention and airtime, so to speak, that they deserve. And so this was a great forum, and people were so engaged. The topic areas included things like diversity and inclusion and registries and in clinical trials. And we led off with that with amazing talks in the morning and at noon by HAP's former fellow. We talked about unmet needs in patients with pulmonary hypertension, substance abuse, and PAH. What is a PAH disease modifying agent, patient engagement strategies, and clinical trial design and improving data quality? And so these were the key topics, and there were people there literally from all over the country, but also guests from Europe as well. And it was just
To
something.
interject
Go.
on Patty, I think the thing that's important to point out about the topics are that they were topics that aren't usually discussed at any kind of medical or PH symposium, which are usually strictly, state of the art research, stuff like that, molecules. This was stuff that really was sort of directed towards gaps and needs that we have in patient care, which made it unique to start with, I think. And I think people really got into this idea that it was very different than other symposia. Okay. And plus we were good in that we had speakers and stuff who really were good and engaging, and the audience was engaged. And we had a panel discussion after each section that got really sort of heated and engaged. And I think to me, aside from the fact that we're talking about things that we don't nearly talk about, was the fact that, to be honest, my worst nightmare was the fact that nobody was going to show up. But to my surprise, the place was full. We had an amazing turnout.
It was
No, it
really
was great. For people that might not know, I believe was it a year ago, less than a year ago, you took over the reins, as Patty said, of Team Phenomenal Hope, and then you come out of the gate with this end of year program. So she said you've cooked this up for a long time. So that's been something that you've wanted to get to with Team PH or just in general, Hap.
Well, I'll tell you, so Patty and I, um, usually in February, I have a house in Crested Butte. We go to Crested Butte and we strategize. And we've been discussing this for I don't know how long. And Patty kept saying it'll never happen. And I kept saying it's going to happen. And it did.
You made it happen. And I want to also say one of the other things about these topics and how we emphasize, they're important topics that aren't often discussed, especially all together in a forum. It really mirrors what we do on Team Phenomenal Hope. Like everything with our organization, we never tried to mirror what's already being done in the field. We have several nonprofits in the space. We have phaware, PHA, Team Phenomenal Hope, but we've never tried to be at what another organization does. We try to always find like gaps and places where we can help people living with PH. What can we do differently? How can we add to the field? And so I think that this was a great expression of that through this medical symposium, and quite complimentary to the day before the Tufts pulmonary hypertension update. It was just, I had a phenomenal 2 days.
No,
Yep.
I think it was great in the sense that I personally have went to a number of medical or medical slash patient forums, and like you say, just on a lot of these topics were ones that I just haven't seen as an audience member, and you know. As well as some of these speakers, after they gave some really engaging and interesting things that we've never really explored. I asked a number of these people. We recorded some of these sessions for future podcasts as well. So to keep this information to kind of get it out to patients as well, which is great. So let me ask you this: is this something that now that you have one under your belts, is this something that would be hopefully a longer term focus to do? I won't say necessarily yearly, but yearly, or what's the kind of future hope for this?
Um, I think it's based on the feedback from that we got from the first one and from the reception we got in the PH community. To be honest, I'm already working on next year's. The problem, I think, is that for good or bad, the first one was so good. We set the bar at a level hopefully we can attain again. I mean, I'm being totally honest there. I did not expect the bar to be that high, but it is now. So now there's this expectation if we do it again, we've got to be at least as good. We will.
Yeah, and again, when you I don't think I asked you this already, but like, how did you come up with some of these topics? Are these just things that you when dealing with patients or other peer doctors that you talk about, and you're like, hey, why don't we kind of peel the onion back on this? I'm just wondering how some of these things came to be.
Hap, you came up with these topics, so why don't you answer
Yeah,
this one?
so we some of them came up because to be honest, Patty and I and two of our fellows wrote a paper about um, the lack of ethnic and minority inclusion in pulmonary hypertension trials and in registries. So that was one obvious topic. Another, because of the emergence of newer drugs, is what are we really doing? Are we modifying the disease, which is, I think, just basically a marketing ploy? But anyway, and then how do we get people engaged in clinical trials? Because nobody's ever talked about that, because trials have to be representative. Because remember, the results you get, you apply to everybody, whether the trial is representative or not, right? And then the other ones just sort of fell into place. And we were lucky in that in areas in which there were no data, which was pretty much almost anything we talked about, the sponsors were good enough to put together these Delphi uh, committees so that even if there were no data, you could sort of get an opinion as to what might or might not be important. And then you could argue about them. It was great.
What I think was interesting is how these are all unique and standalone topics, but they all also kind of go
Yep.
together like an
Yep.
erector set, because it's like if you're talking about trials, and then you're like, well, who's in these trials? And then
Yep.
we need a diversity of patients, and then how are we engaging those patients, and how are we, just
Yep.
so I thought it was a very uh, interesting step by step kind of process.
No, I agree. I think they, as you said, they were separate, but they were linked.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know anything else. What were some of the other feedback you got from some of these doctors, either presenters or some of these panelists?
One of the things that I found that I thought was really fun, and I guess this goes to feedback, but just the vibe of the conference to me, the symposium to me, felt a little different than your typical medical conference. What's really unique about the PH community, like we're all friends at this point, like all these, and it's fun whenever, and we have a lot of meetings throughout the year, different places in pulmonary hypertension. So luckily you get to see your friends and get together and hey, how you doing? And everybody's, just really nice people. But what's really cool is when they came together in this meeting, you just kind of felt a passion from people for like really wanting to make a difference. Not that you don't feel that at other meetings, but I don't know. It was just really engaging in a way. When there were these discussions and someone would present a topic, then there's a panel, and then there's audience members, and you just got this feeling. People like, okay, and people just wanted to contribute or say something, and it seemed like these topics really resonated with people, and so it just was one of these. It was just really satisfying. I felt like I was a part of something, not just attending
Yeah,
something.
you almost had the feeling at times that to expand on what Patty just said is that people had sort of bottled up these ideas and questions for so long that they just couldn't wait to get them out,
Hmm.
which I thought was pretty cool.
Now, I didn't attend every session, but did you think that in some of the kind of these we'll call them panels discussions that people were having diversity of approaches that they were taking at their centers, and were they, you know,
Oh yeah.
Oh
finding
yeah,
enlightenment of other ways of doing things? I guess is a,
yeah,
for lack of a better word.
yeah.
And one of the things that I've been talking about with Anne, our lead nurse coordinator from here at National Jewish, who went with me to the conferences, is what we found was, wow, the things that we struggle with in terms of delivering care to patients, or patients who might struggle to get to appointments, like just the issues that we, copays, all the stuff that we struggle with in terms of providing adequate support for patients, whether it's financial, whether it's helping them through, critical. These are common themes that everybody's dealing with, that everybody has to face in their clinics. And so when you when you get people together and actually can discuss it in this forum, I think it's helpful, because you end up talking to the person next to you, and how do you guys do this, and what about this, and how do you approach that. And so I think that was really cool.
Well, and it's also uh, just to sort of reiterate, since in most of these topics that we had, there really are not good data or even any data at all. So everybody's sort of giving their opinion of how they do it. And then some people are shaking their heads going, yeah, that's how I do it. And other people would go, no, that's not right. But, so it was good in that it really does create a tremendous amount of discussion, because you can't say to somebody, well, the data says do it this way.
Well, to that point, like if you when you do future conferences like this, symposiums like this, do you think that you will kind of keep these main topics, we'll call it, because there's not data to keep going further and exploring and building up that data, or find new areas that are still unmet and not and needed in this PH puzzle?
Both.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great. I don't know. Is there anything else we didn't cover on what some of your
Something.
takeaways?
Yeah, one thing super important. So one of the cool things that came from this conference, two things. Number one, these topic areas are actually the topic areas that we're asking people who are interested in submitting a letter of intent for our research award to submit. So we have a Phenomenal Hope Research Award. Every year we award a $50,000 research award, and LOI submission is going to be due Friday, March 8th. And it is in these topics that came from this conference. And so, we're putting our money where our heart is here. And we now want to fund these important topics. So if anybody has something related to those topics, those are what we're really looking for in this year's research award. The way the process goes is people submit LOIs. It's pretty simple by Friday, March 8th. And then those are reviewed, and the finalists will be notified about 2 weeks later. And then about a month after that, the full, grant application is due. And then the award winner will be announced, probably in May. And so it's a $50,000 no indirects from Team Phenomenal Hope from our fund, but it's also the things about this research award that's special is it's international. So it's not just for the US. People can apply, and we've had people apply and win from abroad. And it also is not just for doctors or PhDs, but nurses, nurse practitioners, respiratory therapists. If you have a good idea, you can put that idea
Well,
in.
actually, the woman from Brazil who won one time was a lawyer,
Yeah.
of all
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
She had an incredible idea. I mean, just amazing.
Yeah.
Because she had a family member with pulmonary hypertension. She got totally into this.
Wow. Well, there you have it. We will, I guess, see deeper look dives into these topics and get more data and for patients and the betterment of the whole disease state. But Patty, Hap, thank you so much for putting this on, for what you do every day for patients in the community, and we look forward to the next one. All right.
Thank
Yep.
you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye.